that brings you practical tips and support from our Black nutritionists, dietitians, public health experts, nurses, because today we have a nurse, and community members, because not only the nutritionists and the dietitians who have all the knowledge, some of our mothers are also well-versed in some of these nutrition topics we talk about. Now, each week I'm joined in by these experts and other community members to discuss important nutrition and lifestyle topics. Over the last 3 years, we've covered so many topics. And so if you're interested, please go to the CAN homepage on Facebook or YouTube, and you would have access to all of our resources over the last 3 years. I'm your host, Dr. Hibbah Rabodiba. I'm a registered nutritionist and a lecturer in nutrition and public health. Last week, we had a very interesting panel discussion on breastfeeding. This was in commemoration of the yearly breastfeeding week, which is usually 1st to 7th of August every year. Now, we just thought that given the interest and all the experiences people shared, we should just follow this up with the next phase of feeding children. After breastfeeding, what's next? Complementary feeding. So we didn't want to wait for weeks or months. We just thought naturally, after breastfeeding, you follow this up with complementary feeding. So let's have a discussion. Let's talk about complementary feeding, not just from the point of view of our nutrition experts or dietitians, but also from our mothers. We want to hear from everyone listening to us today, whether Facebook, YouTube, or on the Zoom call. Tell us about your experiences. How did you go about it? Was it easy? Did you get any support? This, among other issues, is what we are going to focus on today. Before I ask my panel members to introduce themselves, I would like to just make this very important announcement. I had a request a couple of months ago that perhaps we should shift our starting time from 6 to 6:30. Just because a lot of people say around 6, they are getting back from work and it's very difficult for people to join in. So we want to just trial that and see. So from next week, we are going to start Healthy Hearts on Tuesdays from 6:30 rather than 6. We want to see if that would be a bit more helpful for people who are working out of home and coming home, trying to fix dinner for children. And we see how that goes. So yes, that would be on the posters, but I just thought I should mention it here. Now we're going to mention it again at the end of the session. So anyone who is on here, please do join us next week at 6:30. Right, so I'm going to ask our panel members to introduce themselves. Can I ask my very experienced dietitian, Ditope, to start first? You were here last week, but it might be a new audience, so please do introduce yourself for us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Habib, and let me thank the CAN, Sahara Nutrition and the Healthy Hearts. So I'm always delighted and thankful to form part of these discussions. I don't take them for granted. They're impacting lives in so many ways. The reviews that we get after each and every session, I think that's the things that give us that passion to continue sharing the information that we have with mothers. I am a mother of 4. I always mention their age, because I think that also gives perspective in terms of the insight that I have, which covers both the professional and also the experience as the mother. The oldest is 24 years old now. The youngest is 10, and in between there are 4. So it means, I think, and remember, children are not the same. Each one of them, I managed to experience different things when it comes to complementary feeding. So that's why I'm here to share. Yes, thank you. And what you always need to understand is, just like you've already said, to say we've been focusing on exclusive breastfeeding. By now, we think most mothers, parents, caregivers, supporters understand what is exclusive breastfeeding. So thankfully, we are now taking it to the next leg so that they know. because the research has indicated that most mothers don't know. You told us to give complementary feeding for 6 months. Now it's 6 months. What do I do? So I'm always thankful for these sessions. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Ditope. And I'm also really always honored to have you here, because I always have to add that apart from there's so many years of experience you have in practice, and then having brought up children, first one being 24 years, you also doing a PhD.
Yes.
This area, so that also sends it to another level, so I couldn't find any other better person well suited for this topic than yourself. So thank you so much.
I've worked for almost 24 years in
this area.
Yes.
So thank you
so
once again. Okay, my good friend Nusrat, please, can you introduce yourself? You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, with me, I think it's time I add can to my name, because I've benefited a lot. Family, everything is about can. So maybe I have to take the Achaempong out and
then call yourself Nusrat Khan. Okay. I think this should go to Faye and Charles.
This opportunity, yeah. Faye, Charles, everybody in Can, they all know me. Yeah. So I'm so grateful for giving me this opportunity to be here this evening. Yeah. As I've said my name already, I'm a registered nurse and associate lecturer at Manchester Metropolitan University in Manchester. Yeah. So I'm also a mother of 4, and and also a registered Ofsted registered childminder. So apart from my own children, I look after other children too. So
okay. Thank you, Nusrat. So my viewers, my audience, you would agree with me that today's panelists they all have 4 children, so they've had experience taking care of 4 children. And then with Nusrat, doing child minding means that you'll be feeding other children as well. So again, can we kindly put ourselves on mute if we are not speaking? Yeah, apologies for that. I think I have a few mothers in the they don't want to be on video, but at the right time I would throw some questions to them, because I want other people to join in the conversation. It shouldn't just be the 3 of us. This is something that I wouldn't say comes natural. Well, if it comes natural, for mothers, we have to feed our children. So if you haven't had children of your own, you definitely have seen someone in your family, your sisters, your cousins, feeding children. And that's what I want us to talk about. What are people's experiences? What are the challenges? How should we go about it, doing it well? So to set the scene, I would like to ask Ditope. I need to apologize to our audience because there was supposed to be another panelist and something came up, and unfortunately she's unable to join us now. Maybe she might join us later on. Yes, Ditope, I see that you are dark, and I hope we can still.
It's okay. It's okay. This is this is what we are used to.
It's okay. Yeah, just to add, so Nusrat and I in the UK, Ditope is joining in all the way from South Africa. But just to add that in. So please, can you start by telling us what complementary feeding is? I remember when I put out that topic, someone asked me, what exactly do you mean by complementary feeding? So please, to the lay audience, Ditope, what do we mean by complementary feeding?
Okay, thank you so much for that question, Dr. Hibbah. So maybe to explain it easier to a lay person, we can try to unbundle the word complete or complementary. So in your dictionary language, it says you are combining 2 or more things to improve the quality of the other. So that's basically what we're doing. We are saying we have a child or an infant who was only receiving breast milk for 6 months and nothing else except something that was medically indicated or prescribed. Now the child is 6 months old. That milk alone, it is no longer sufficient. So we require something to add to it so that it becomes sufficient. So therefore, when we add these two together, complementary feeding basically means or is defined as a process. And I'm going to emphasize some of the key things that we'll be talking about. It's a process of introducing other foods or liquids when breast milk alone, keywords, is no longer sufficient to meet the nutritional needs of the infant, and it is recommended to start at 6 months. So in other words, we are saying you continue to breastfeed, but then add other food that will be able to assist in growth and development of this child. So therefore, one of the key things that we always talk about when we talk about complementary feeding is in terms of adequacy, in terms of diversity, in terms of timeliness, in terms of safety, but I will unbundle all these other components or all these factors as we continue with the conversation. But all in a nutshell, is you are giving your child something over and above the breast milk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ditope. Okay, now let me come to mothers' experiences. So, and I'll take some from the chat box as well. Nus, how did you transition your children? You have 4, so maybe let's start with the last one. How old is the last one, by the way?
Oh, she's just 2.
She's 2 years now. And I mean, the last session, I think I remember you saying with all your 3 children, you do exclusive breastfeeding. It's just the last one that you didn't.
Yes.
So for those of them that you did exclusive breastfeeding, how did you transition them to complementary feeding? Are you able to share that with us?
Yeah. Before I start, if we talk about after the 6 months, what I went through might be different from what's, every child is different and it depends on every mother. And with circumstances, some parents, some mothers go back to work after 3 months. Others can stay home for 6 months. Others after 1 year. So with my experience, the first 3, I was working full time at that time. So I think I went back to work after 7 months. And with nursing in the UK and breastfeeding, trying to add solid food and other stuff. So at my time, at that moment, it was quite difficult for me, for what I went through, because I had to get somebody to look after the child. Is that my baby? Is he going to get enough nutrients? Am I still going to breastfeed? So all those things, it depends. Like if somebody is also going back to work, maybe 3 months, the person might think, oh, because I'm going, I need to start feeding the child. No, the child is not ready to eat. The breast milk is okay. So either you express it or leave it with somebody to feed your child for you. So with mine, the first 3, after the 6 months, especially the first one, because that was my only child, and I'm saying that it's different because with him being the only child in the family, all attention were on him. So I was trying to spend much money buying different food to start with. But with the others, because the family was increasing with things, cost of living and everything is high, everything reduced. So I started, I did a way of making my own food, like starting with vegetables, one at a time. I'll just freeze some to be used later because busy mom working, and then just keep it in the freezer for future use. That's what's like with the 3, that's what I did with them because I was working at the same time. So it was quite a bit difficult, but we managed to do it along with the breastfeeding. Because before, yesterday I sent this thing to a friend and the person was saying, is it weaning? And I was like, yeah, that's what we called it from the beginning, that weaning. But people were getting confused with weaning because they think weaning means stopping the breastfeeding and just introduce solid food. So that's why maybe the name complementary came around, that we should, you are not going to stop the breastfeeding. I keep doing this, sorry. You are going to still breastfeed your child in addition to, because the breast milk is not, as my sister said, it's not enough
at that point.
Yeah. So you need to add the solid food to it. So it depends on the family, your budget, and then
yes, indeed.
Whether that's the only child, you got other members in the family that you need to think about, and all those stuff that come into place.
Thank you, Nusrat, for sharing that. I'd like to hear a few more experiences from our mothers here. How was your experience? You know, how did you manage to transition your infants from just exclusive breastfeeding into complementary feeding? Anybody here wants to tell us their experience? Let's see. Where are the mothers that I know on the call? Toiba, are you able to speak? Or let me see. If you want to share your experience, please put your hand up, because this is some. Oh, okay. Please unmute me. Right. Let's try and unmute you. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so this is Toiba here. I was trying to unmute myself.
Yes.
So I think it's the same as Nusrat said. So I have 3 kids, and the process is different. Every child is different. So with my first child, she even started, before the 6 months. She would want to eat because the breast milk wasn't enough. Yeah, so I introduced, like Nusrat said, the home, like the porridges, the oats, just to complement it. And it was okay. She would take fruits, blended fruits and everything. That was fine. With my second one, so for the first one, even when you gave her the bottled foods and all that, she rejected them. It was all the natural stuff. You blending your rice with the vegetables, into a pudding, and then she'll take it. With the second one, you blend all kinds of vegetables. It was a no for him. He would rather take the Cerelac, maybe a little bit of porridge. Now with the third one, he's a combination of the two. Yeah, so he would take he would take all fruits, but anything rice, no, is a no for him. Anything that he can swallow, yes. So, it's still the same as Nusrat is saying. All the kids are different. So
the kids are different.
Because this person wanted some porridges and some oats, it doesn't work. They are all different. So you have to try different things and see which one works for you. And you transition. You complement it, and then gradually you transition into what the kids like.
The kids really like. Yes.
That I also
you can add to it. Okay. I'll come back to. I would like another mother to share this, but I want to share my own experience. So, I started attending. I'm not sure what's the name of that. Is it those sessions they have for mothers here in the UK?
Oh,
yeah, Sure Start. And they were showing us all of these things to prepare. And so I started doing those things for my first daughter, and she wouldn't like it. Those were things I wasn't eating myself, but because I was taught here, there are vegetables and other stuff, but it's not foods that I ate myself. So she was rejecting it. Then I started giving her, just the foods that I was eating, but, softer versions of that. And then I realized that, I really didn't have to go out of my way to do the things that we're not eating at home. But I just gave her the stuff we were eating, just softer rice, softer stuff, and that worked. So yes, I agree with all mothers saying that there isn't a fixed way of doing this. You might have to trial a few things and then see what works for you. Okay. Do we have any other mother who wants to share their own experience? Otherwise, I'll go around the. Yes, Tamina, let me unmute you. 1 second. Yes, are you able to speak?
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Are you able to share your own experience with us? Complementary feeding.
Yeah. So I have 2 kids.
Okay.
With the older one, I was quite happy that, oh, finally, I'm going to be off this exclusive breastfeeding. And I was so excited. But then it was quite difficult transitioning, adding our own meals to the breast milk, because he wasn't going to take the meals, even the softer version. So someone suggested that I blended vegetables and fruits for him, and he liked that. So for that.
We can't hear you. We lost you for a minute. Mina, we can't hear you. Okay. Do let me know when you come back. I'll come back to you for you to finish telling us your own experience. In the meantime,
about meals in a softer version. Hello?
Yeah, we couldn't hear all that you were saying. So I wanted to just go around and come back to you when we are talking about challenges. Oh. Yeah. Ditope, let me come to you. Now, we realize from the 3 or 4 stories that, there isn't one size fits all. Yes. But what is from a professional practice point of view? What is the recommendation on how we should go about this? There's always a recommendation, and the mothers have to adapt. What is the best way to introduce complementary feeding?
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for all the experiences that, different
people have
mothers
shared.
We're sharing. And I managed to get something about consistency. So there are those that we're talking about consistency of the feed that is being given, the how part in terms of freezing the foods, we'll talk about that, and trying different things until the child is able to identify with some of the foods. And the other thing is, this was shared by you, where you said your child did not want to consume the food that you do not eat. Yeah, and there's for each and every, for all this, there's a reason. So maybe before I can even move to what is recommended by WHO and UNICEF, that's where we get most of our recommendations. I think all the experiences that mothers shared are real and are good. However, the latter one, in terms of letting the child decide on whatever they want to eat, we always talk about repeated exposure. So you give the child carrot today, he or she says no, try it again. So when you read some literature, it tells you about trying it up to 10 times before you can really say, really don't want to be consuming this. So I was just responding to the experiences. But
can I just comment on that? That's really a good point that I would really want you to re-echo, because as you know, busy mothers, the research, and I've come across that too, tells us to do repeated exposure. Some say 10. I actually had in a conference, had someone say 27 times. But here we are, mothers busy, especially when you have other children and then you have work to do. It really is not easy. They try once, twice, and all of us, myself included, and then we give up. It's like, 2-3 times the child is not eating the carrot, you just go like, you know what, if it's rice you're going to eat, I'm going to give you rice. And then you forget the vegetable.
Remember when I said it is a process. So anything where there's a process, don't think that is just going to be it's going to be a free way, you'll just be flowing. It requires some patience. It requires, a lot of cohesing here and there, trying this and that. But this thing of saying my child doesn't want to eat this particular food because I've tried it once or twice, it's really not working. I'll come to that. Let me talk about experience from hospital point of view. With me, remember, like I said, I did not have any challenges. The only challenge for me was transitioning from breast milk to giving food, because when you're exclusive breastfeeding, all that you need to do is just to carry your baby and move around. Now you need to pack. It was more about the mechanical things rather than what to give and how and all those things. But having to pack this, that, and this and that was, a little bit challenging for me. But from my hospital experience, you'll get a mother who brings a child, obviously inappropriately fed, developing malnutrition. Then they'll tell you right away, my child doesn't eat a particular food, because remember, hospital is obliged to provide adequately and balanced food that my child doesn't. And to our amazement, they'll be saying, give this to them, try it and then see. The child will surprise you. Eat it. Okay, the first time, of course, it will be difficult, but with repeated exposure, at the end, they end up agreeing to that. So let's come to what WHO and UNICEF is recommending. We always talk about dietary diversity. And this is based on the food groups that each and every child is supposed to be fed from 6 months up until, I don't know, infinity. So we are basically saying, as soon as the child is 6 months, that child is ready to eat almost everything that you are eating in the household. The only difference will be in terms of the consistency, how the meshing part of the food that you are giving, the soft ones, semi-solids, things like that. But in terms of a food item, if it's a carrot, this child has to eat. If it's a spinach, if it's livers, this child from 6 months should be able to eat that. So we have almost 8 groups, and I'm going to be as slow as I can. So the first group is your breast milk, especially within between 6 and 8 months. We still emphasize the breast milk as a food group. So it means it has to be met. Then we have your grains, your roots, your tubers. An example will be your maize meal, your cassavas, your plantain, potatoes, any form of starch that will be given to the child. Then the third group is your legumes, your nuts, your seeds, example, peanut butter, any types of beans that a child can consume. Then the fourth group is your dairy products. Now we are talking about fresh milk for a 6 months year old. Fresh milk, your cheese, your fermented milk products. Then group number 5, it will be what we call your flesh meat. Your flesh will be pork or any type of meat, beef, chicken, poultry, fish, organ meats. And number 6 is eggs as a food group. Then number 7 is vitamin A rich foods, your vegetables, and fruits. Examples will be your deep yellow, your carrots, pumpkin, mangoes. And number 8 is any other vegetables and fruits that the child should be getting. So out of these 8 groups, for us to say your child is adequately getting adequate nutrition or is getting adequate nutrition, the child should be consuming at least 5 from the 8 food groups that is being provided or that is being recommended. If possible, yes, we have to meet 100%. But because of all those challenges that some of you mentioned, it might not be possible for some mothers to meet that. But as long as you meet 5 of the 8 food groups, then you are set to go. Your child will be able to grow and develop adequately. And we also talk about the meal frequency. How often? I spoke about the what.
Before you get to the meal frequency, please just pause there. So just what you mentioned about the food groups. So in the UK, we use the Eat Well guide. So it's basically, the same thing. The groups might slightly be different. So the point you're making is that we have to make sure that we have foods from, all of these food groups, which we describe as the Eat Well guide. Now, let me ask the mothers who have already done this. Is this what we're doing? Were we making sure
Can I also add, we also have a similar food groups in South Africa. We call them the pediatric food-based dietary guidelines, but all of them are developed or adapted from almost the same WHO and UNICEF concept. Yes,
just different names, but yeah. So how many of us were able to do that when we're doing transitioning? How many of us were, Kabeerat, you just joined us. Yes, Kabeerat was our fourth panel member. Are you able to say anything about your own experience? Were you ensuring nutrient adequacy for your 2 children? How did you go about it?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Complementary feeding, well, I
Yeah.
tried my best to go through all the parts she mentioned, the aspects of the nutrition that is very important for the kids. But because we are just introducing, it was a bit challenging because the children only know the breast milk because I did exclusive. So the transition wasn't easy because I had to start trying and letting her get to know the first one first. Then stepwisely, I was trying to introduce other things, but I tried to make sure that whatever I'm giving has enough and adequate nutrients, like maybe carbohydrates. I make sure there's carbohydrates in a particular food or in a particular meal. There's carbohydrates, there's protein, there's dairy products, whatever I'm adding. Initially, for both of them, they were not really interested in the milk because they are only used to the breast milk. So I was just trying to, because I spoon-fed them when I started the complementary feeding. So I was doing it gradually with spoon so that they would get used to it. But along the line, it improved. So I added other things. Then with the meat, I didn't really give them meat initially because they couldn't chew properly. So I used fish. I used fish that was rich in omega H3 and all those kinds of fish. So what I do is I boil it and I mash it for them. Sometimes I blend it in the meal they are taking so that they won't have any cause to chew, and because they can't chew and it's something I'm just introducing. So I try to make it as much as possible semi-solid so that at least they'll be able to swallow easily and won't choke on anything. So I started like that and I tried to do that. So that was how I introduced my complementary feeding to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabeerat. There's a comment in the chat. Someone says, Ditope, please repeat the groups for varying the diet. I'm a grandmother and will soon be starting my granddaughter with complementary food. Okay, if you can repeat that for Nari.
Okay, no, thank you so much for that question, Narim. The food groups are breast milk, it's number 1 on the list. The grain, the roots, and the tubers, and examples are your maize meal, cassava, plantain, potatoes, macaroni. It depends. It's almost all your starchy, yes, your starchy vegetables, starchy, all your starches. Then the third groups, it's your legumes, your nuts, and seeds. Example will be your peanut butter and any other form of nuts that are at your disposal. Then you have your dairy products, which will be your milk, as in full cream milk and ordinary milk that we as adults are using at home, but it will have to be full cream. I know we have those that use low fat and other varieties, but at this time it will be a full cream milk. Your cheese and your yogurt has to be plain yogurt. Flesh meat, which will be your any type of a mammal, your beef, chicken, mutton, anything, your livers, organ meats, depending on where you are from and your economic situation. Then number 6 is the eggs. They are a group on their own. 7 is vitamin A rich foods, both vegetables and fruits. Examples will be your pumpkin, your carrots, anything that is bright yellow. And number 8 will be all other vegetables and fruits, other than the one that I mentioned in group 7. I tried to be as slow as I could. Hopefully,
thank you.
the messages.
And we
Yes.
still have
Yeah,
this
thank you so
recording,
much.
so people can always go back. And Ditope, I
Okay.
like the fact, because at the end of the day, apart from the fact that we are sharing experiences, we are also making sure that we are reminding ourselves of the recommendation. So you started with the recommendation in terms of the food groups, and you were about to talk about consistency. I still want you to hold, not consistency, the number of times, isn't it? Frequency. So
Yes,
before you get to that
yes.
second recommendation, let me ask the mothers here, Nus, what were some of your challenges? What was your biggest challenge when you were doing complementary feeding? And I also want to hear from other mothers as well.
Mine, let me come to what she was saying at first with the groups. In reality, that's what is recommended. But in reality, I was just listening to you and I was like, with my first child, because he was the only one, and we're so keen, looking forward to having a child. So everything were on him. So I could boldly say
all of that.
we went through all those things. I was just following. I joined Bounty. It's like a mother's group online. I joined Pampers. I was going to Sure Start with him. I was doing everything. But with the rest, it was not, I didn't follow it.
You couldn't be bothered.
No, I couldn't follow it. But I tried. It's just that sometimes if I get yam, the yam that we are eating, like when I started, I would just boil a bit of yam, add carrot to it, a bit of chicken without bone, and then I'll blend like in a period form. And then sometimes I'll just mix it a little bit of butter. And I think it went well with them. They were just eating it. And sometimes just blend maybe strawberries with our own cereal and milk. It was also another form of like feeding them. My only challenge that I had was timing, because I was working. So the timing, and then you know how messy the whole thing is. And you need to go according to their pace. And sometimes you just lose it. You don't even have time to go. You need to go to work in the morning. You need to drop her somewhere to go to work. Most mothers who are working will just understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You just need to go. You need the time. And sometimes, especially one of them, I think Tanisha, she wanted to feed herself. And I don't even have time. It's recommended. Like I have to help her, but I don't even have time.
You didn't have the time. No, those are real stories that share.
I'm trying to feed her, something like maybe giving her what I'm trying to feed her. She was also trying to do it herself. And the whole thing will be everywhere. And I've already got my uniform on, ready to go to work. And I know the recommendation is there, but when it comes to in real life, you just go through.
It's a different thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really want to hear from other mothers. How did mothers cope, especially people who had to go back to work? Complementary feeding takes time, as Nusrat was explaining. It's not like breastfeeding. You just few minutes, you are done. I really want to hear how mothers were able to go around this, still manage to. Maybe I'll start with the topic. You were also working, or how did you do your complementary feeding? And then I'll really appreciate some more stories from the group. How did you go about your complementary feeding? Yeah.
Yes, you are right. I had all of our kids when I was working, and I could I concur with what Nusrat is saying, to say it's a messy process. Leave it as a messy process. So what I used to do is I'll have a chair, child will be sitting there, literally having their own food, because what I've observed with my kids is most of them around 5 months, they start crying for food. They literally cry. And when you move around with the plate, they cry. So, but then I'll be saying, remember, you are a dietitian's child, so you need to be fed by the book. we need these experiences. So then I'll just literally wait for them until they are ready. And when they are ready, they are literally ready in terms of the developmental milestones. I'll put in some little food, and I'll gauge. There are those who are able to, tongue thrust, which was well controlled, then they could. There are those that I will use a spoon. And remember, when you are starting, you are not feeding for nutritional needs. You are training this child on how to eat. So even if the child takes 1, 2, 3 spoons, it's okay, because that's what we want. The issue of increasing as you continue, those ones will get them as soon as this child is being trained on eating. So I'll literally do that. 2, 3 spoons. If the child says no, the child says no. Then I leave it to them. The only challenge was, and I've seen this with most breastfed children, if the mother is around, they tend not to want to eat because they know they're going to get the breast milk. You know how nice breast milk is. I've tasted it. It's very nice. So they'll choose it over any ordinary food. So what I'll do, there'll be somebody at home. I'll say, feed my child while I'm not at home. So I'll tell them, I'm going, feed them. If I'm not there, it's okay. And what I used to do is I used to express. I continued to express until my child was almost 1 year, 6 months. Then I stopped, then started giving other things. I never give any cow's milk or anything. I was just expressing. Then they will mix my breast milk with whatever the child is getting at home. Then I'll do as what Nusrat was saying, over the weekend, do bulk vegetables, put them in ice trays inside the fridge. Then they'll know. No child is supposed to be eating only one food group. You can't have maize alone. You cannot have cassava alone. And it really doesn't matter, even from the from literature, what is it that you'll be starting with? Because remember, all these food are important for a 6-month-old. So whatever the child prefers, as long as you try by all means to blend different type of foods, so that at the end you are able to meet the minimum dietary diversity. That's all that we are looking out for. So that really helps me.
How you went
then
about
at times, yes, at times they will, obviously they'll also have their preference. A brother will be feeding and they'll really like their brother feeding them rather than me feeding them. Or I'll move out and say, you make sure that, my child is fed. And as the child grew older and started to walk, you literally take a bowl of food and move next door to say, I want to be fed. Then they'll give those foods and all those things. So it's literally letting the mess. The child is still growing. The child is still learning. Who learns in a perfect environment? Nobody. So let the child learn. If they play with food, it's okay. It is part of their development. Thank you.
Ditope, thank you. Thank you for that. But I'm very sure that my UK mothers will beg to differ. You were talking about help and all of that. Yeah. A lot of the UK mothers don't get that kind of help. Some people, I can see some grandmothers here. Some people are lucky to have family around. Some others don't have anybody at all to help, So, mothers, please, let's hear you. How did you go about, if you don't have anybody at home and you still have to do this, how do you go, especially people who have to take their kids to childminders? These people who take care of children. Nusrat, you said you were a childminder at some point, you're taking care of other people's children. Would you really have the time to allow that messiness we were talking about, when other people are taking care of your kids? I think in reality, if you have 4 or 5 children you're taking care of, because, their mothers have to work, it might really be difficult to really practice this in the recommended way.
Yes.
Kabeerat, you have something to say? I see you nodded.
It wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy.
Messy. No, I don't like you.
You don't like the mess. Okay, look. Ditope, look at mother here saying, I don't like the mess.
No, she does that. The first one was not as messy as the second. The second one is so messy. The first one, I wasn't bothered because when she started picking herself, like pasta, I make sure I slice it down so that when she's swallowing, it won't choke her. So I put it there, I put it with a fork for her to pick, and she picks, and she doesn't really mess up. She has her own table. So those ones that drop there, or sometimes she pours it on the table and start picking it from there. But the second one, no, she doesn't limit it to the table. It goes to the floor and all that. So, but is the normal practice to allow them eat and all that. So what I do is I put a little in a small bowl for her. Then the one I really want to feed her with, I put it in a bowl that I will feed her directly myself. So she has little to mess up. That's what I do with her. So she has little to mess up. And when I was working, I was doing work from home because my mother-in-law left after she was 4 months. So it was just me and the father and the older one. So the major work was on me, because I'm mostly at home with the babies. So what I do is when I'm working and because I know she likes to be messy and I don't want noise, I put a little in a bowl for her so that there won't be noise. Yes, so it distracts her. That's the way I do. Or when I give her anything to munch on, like fruits and all that, I put it on the table for her. She likes that. She messes it up. Then the issue I have is, while walking, all those ones she drops on the floor, she starts shouting for it. So I have to still put her from the chair and put her down so that she can continue with that. Because if I don't, the noise will just continue. So I put her down and she starts picking again from the ones on the floor. So I try to make sure the place is very clean, because I know she likes to pick from the floor. I try to make sure the floor is clean. I clean up her table. Every time after meal, I make sure I clean it up, because that's also a part of complementary personal hygiene, making sure she's okay. So that's what I do. But it wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Thank you, Kabeerat, for sharing that. I mean, I know a couple of mothers here who said they've joined because they want a solution to, they're going back to work and they really want some practical tips. Now, I think the next thing we are going to talk about is going to be helpful, but let me read a few comments and then we come to the next thing. What would you recommend if your baby likes to eat soil? Ooh. And then Ditope,
that must be a child from Africa. That must be a child from somewhere in Africa.
We did a session on cravings for clay and all of that. What is it called? Pika. I don't know if that is Ditope, do you want to say something about it? Children who want to eat soil.
Yes.
It's
Children
not limited to just Africa. It's not limited to just Africa, because my second one here, whenever we go outside and she sees all those pots of flour, all those,
she wants to eat it.
The next thing is in her mouth, or all those little gravels. So it's not just limited to...
It's not just Africa. Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. The one that I gave birth to in Africa doesn't do that. But the one I gave birth to, yes, here. Sometimes the father says, "Are you sure you gave birth to this child here?" I said, "Well, I don't know. At that time, you were the one that took me to the hospital. So it was the African hospital." So it's like that. It's not Thank you for clarifying that you don't need to be living in Africa to want to eat that. So Ditope, you have to take that back.
My apology to my African sisters and brothers. I thought so, because I don't remember seeing soil somewhere where I was.
When you came to Loughborough, you didn't see any soil.
Not at all, but it's okay. So remember, this child is exploring. So it's not only soil. There are those who take literally whatever, all the insects, whatever they come across, that hand to mouth a developmental milestone that they want to try and develop at all times. So they'll do that. So it's just exploration for a child, not necessarily for someone who's pregnant or who's older, but in this context, this child is exploring. So make sure that the environment is okay. And this is very, very dangerous if the child gets soiled, because we are living in an infectious environment. You don't know, there might be worms that the child might eat along the way and all other things that we don't want. It's not a recommended practice, but just know when that child is doing that, it's part of the development of that child.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because of time,
So
let me come.
Yes, I also wanted to emphasize still, so because I'm also looking at time and I'm worried we might not be able to cover, at least let me cover one thing and know that we are all sure of it. When I was mentioning the food groups, I did not mention anything that is commercially available. This is, even the recommendation says it has to be homemade food, something that you know how it was prepared, you know, you can account. So all those things that you are unable to account for, you must just know that they always smell danger in them. So the purified vegetables and fruits that we normally get from the shops, there's research that has indicated that most of them, when they were analyzing, they were very high in salt, very high in sugar, very high in fat. They contain all these chemicals that are really not necessary, you know, or not necessarily promoting the growth and development of your child. So therefore, we always recommend home-based food. That's number one. The same applies to the cereals. You know, you can get variety of cereals, whether written 6 months or 17 months or whatever. Please, we are also not to use them for the very same reason, to say they add all sort of things to thicken them. They've add salt and all those things. And a child whom you are still trying to teach how to eat, you are not to give sweetened foods. You are also not supposed to be given salty food. And by sweetened, when I was talking about the dairy product, I said yogurt, and my emphasis was on the plain, because with plain, they do not add any type of sugar. So with some of the products, yogurt that you are getting, you know, you have added sugar, it will be written sweetened. Once you see the word sweetened, it means they've added some form of sugar. Therefore, do not give that to your child. Juices, I did not talk about juices. I only spoke about vegetables and fruits. I always say, if you want to make a juice, take a fruit, drink water. They will mix somewhere and they'll make juice where they're supposed to be making that type of juice. So do not be tempted by written from 6 months or 8 months, suitable for those things. Should not tempt. It's just all the marketing strategies that companies are doing to try and undo what we do as healthcare professionals. There are teas, rooibos, not rooibos, it really doesn't matter. We do not recommend any use of tea, whether it's said suitable for a child or not. Those ones we don't. The same applies to, still on the milk. I said milk, if you really want to use milk, you are maybe for some reason you're unable to express and you feel that this child can continue whilst you're at work with milk. Do not be tempted to use the milk, the powdered milks that we get in shops. And do not be, I have a lot of do not today. Do not. But the thing is that they are really, lack of a better word, messing up on the education that we always give to mothers. And for some reason, there's that affinity towards doing what is easily available without us. Maybe it's time, I don't know what are the reasons, but they cause more damage and harm that they're supposed to be assisting with our children. So don't be tempted when it says particular product number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Don't say, okay, it means number 1 is not suitable for all those things. I can label them marketing scams, marketing strategies. Do not fall for them. So therefore, whatever you have at home, whatever you are using, make sure that the consistency is right based on your child's development. Do not add anything. This child, the only thing that she knows or he knows at this stage is the breast milk. So that will be my small message, just to add.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And even though it was a lot of do not, I think the key message there is the fact that it's better to just do it yourself at home. There's a lot of products, being marketed, and you're telling us that the research shows that a lot of those products are high in salt, high in sugar, so just prepare your own then at home. It's, the summary of the do nots is what I've gathered from there. Another thing I want you to touch on, Ditope, because I stopped you when you were talking about it, frequency.
Yes.
Please tell us about the recommendation. How often should we feed these kids?
Okay, so in terms of the recommendations, WHO and UNICEF, and these are the latest ones, I think the 2021, 2022. So they say they've divided them in terms of the months, because obviously, as much as we are saying, introduce all the food groups from 6 months, a 6-month-old baby or infant is not the same as a 23-month-old infant or baby. So they are different in terms of developmental milestones. So from 6 to 8 months, so that's how they're breaking it up, 6 to 8 months, then you have your 9 to 11 months, and you have a year up until 23 months. So this is the 3 categories that we have. So for 6 to 8 months, so we usually say the child should have 2 to 3 meals a day. Remember, we are complementing. It is in addition to the breast milk. 2 to 3 meals in a day. You start by 2 to 3 teaspoons. You are building it up. A 6-month-old infant will not consume the same amount as an 8-month-old, because again, for obvious reasons, they are not the same. So 2 to 3, you build it up until to half a cup. Yeah, up to there. So it shouldn't be more than half a cup for somebody who's a child who's 8 months old, because that would be too much. Then once the child grows to be 9 to 11 months, then you can start with that half a cup, push it a little bit up until 3/4 cup, and that's it. Then as soon as the child is from 12 to 23 months, then you can give literally 3/4 to a full cup. So there has to be that transition in terms of the quantities that you'll be giving to your child. And with this, they also say from 9 to 11 months, 12 to 23 months, you over and above the 2 to 3 meals that you are giving, or 3 to 4 meals that you are giving, you must also add the snacks. So at least 1 to 2 snacks in a day, because they tend to their growth spurt becomes higher around that month.
What kinds of snacks?
Fruits. Snack has to be fruit. Snacks, I'm not referring to any other thing. Fruits, vegetables, anything that you can give to the child to eat. I'm not referring to that snack that you're thinking about, Dr. Hibbah, but just fruits and vegetables. Yeah. And with this also comes the safety when you prepare the food, because it's okay, yes, you might be giving all the food groups, that's good. You might be following the frequency, that's fine. But if the environment is not safe, where you prepare, you don't wash your hands, the utensils are dirty. Remember, this child is still developing. They do not have that strong immunity like we have as adults. So at all times, I spoke about 2 to 3 teaspoons. It means even when you prepare 2 to 3 small meals. Don't put a whole cup when you know that you are only going to get 2 to 3 teaspoons out of it. Others will be wasteful, because we do not recommend that you use the food. Let's say you had a cup, then you took 2 to 3 spoons out of it. There's still some that is remaining. We don't recommend that you keep that for later use. So therefore, you also need to be economical when you prepare those particular food. Then yes, I think that's basically that, to say safety is equally important.
Very important.
Thank you. Yes.
Nusrat, once again, our time is almost up. Final words based on your own experience. Working mother in the UK, 4 children. What lesson, what experience briefly would you share with the other mothers here as to how they should successfully do complementary feeding? Briefly, because our time is up.
I want to make it just so simple. Remember, every child is different, and what your friend might be feeding their baby, you might, this one is working for me. It will be different from what your child also wants. So the only thing is, take your time, go according to your child pace. Forget about the mess in the house sometimes, because everybody know that you are a mom of 4. You don't expect me to have expensive glasses and other stuff in my house. No. I'm a child minder as well, so I need to do assessments in the house, risk assessments every day. So forget about all those fancy dining tables and other stuff. Let the child enjoy. Let the baby eat. That's one thing I learned, because if you leave them, they eat more than you trying to force them so that there will be no death or other stuff. But let them just enjoy it. It will pass, because we don't have any. We are mothers. We are doing our best. So just enjoy it. It's not going to last forever. Yeah.
Thank you, Nus. Kabeerat, final words, briefly, please. 30 seconds.
Well, what I would just say is that in respect of our cultural and individual differences, whatever we are going to be feeding our baby with, we should make sure is adequate, and we should follow the food group, because they are growing and they need essential nutrients. So their choices of food should be well selected and make sure they get adequate nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you. Ditope, final words, please.
Yes, thank you so much. My final words is, we now have the information, its corresponding challenges, and some of the challenges we managed to deal with them. So let's go try, at least so that we can also have our own experiences. Let us not just say it's not possible. I am. Then the other thing is, always listen to your child. Do not force feed. If the child says it's and for him, do not force feed, because force feeding has been shown to have its own challenges. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my panel members. Just a recap of some of the things Ditope mentioned. Avoid giving drinks, all those so-called low nutrient drinks in the shops. Avoid teas, avoid sugary drinks, sugary yogurts. You know, especially here in our markets, there are lots of products that you will be told will be suitable for infants. The best way to do complementary feeding is to try and prepare these things yourself. And as they discussed here, it's not supposed to be difficult. You know, you can bulk do some of these things over the weekend and then put it in the freezer, right? And warm this up for your kids. Let's try and limit the foods we buy from the shops, the weaning foods, please. On this note, I'll have to bring our session to an end. Unfortunately, I couldn't read all the comments in the chat box. As always, we've run out of time. Apologies to the people who asked those questions. I'm sure we touched on a lot of the things you are asking here. So the recording is going to be available for anyone who missed the beginning of the session, so we can go back and watch this at a later time. So please help me thank my panel members, Nusrat, Ditope, and Kabeerat. Thank you so much. It was a very insightful and engaging session, just like last week. Thank you. This is so informative as usual. Yeah, comments from the chat. Thank you to the audience for your engagement. Mina, Toiba, and all other mothers who have shared some experiences. Thank you so much. It's time for our next session. So please remember, next week we start at 6:30 instead of 6. Please do join us for another engaging and insightful session. Thank you all. Hope to see you next week. Bye.
Maybe also remind the audience that we are using the same link, so that
yes, it's the same link each week.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to wait to see the link. It's the same link each week. Yeah. Thank you, Ditope, for that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So Orlando Enterprise, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, am I on? Thank you, Dr. Hibbah, and thank you for the panel. Great talk. I hope everybody enjoyed the talk, and I hope everybody will stay on for the fitness portion of today's session. As promised, we have an ab workout coming your way. What you'll need for today's session is just a space and plenty of water, because all the exercises we will do tonight will be standing. All right, so you don't need a mat for tonight. All right, so 7 o'clock, just past 7 o'clock. Let's get straight into it, people. Let's start with a warm-up. Get my tune going. Let's go back. Okay, to start off with, just start with some hip rotations, okay, for 30 seconds. Get ready. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Stretch those abs out. But let's change direction. Change direction again. Change direction, last one. Okay, next one now. Touch the ceiling. Go down. Nice stretch. Really stretch those abs out. Okay, from there, we're going to reach across. Let's go. Twist those hips. Stretch the oblique. Ten seconds. Two, one. Okay, rest there for 10 seconds. Let those abs reset. Okay, let's go back in down, people. So next, we have alternate high knee. Okay, so we're going to bring the knees to the waist. We're going to change legs every time. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Three, 2, 1. Okay, next one. We're going to go from 5 up to the sky. Let's go. Stay on one side. Okay, now let's change sides. 3, 2, 1, and time, people. Well done. All right, take a quick 15-second water break, and we're going to go into circuit number 1. Let's go. Okay, people, let's get back to your spaces now. It's game time. Time to go into our first circuit of the evening. All right, so each move we're going to do is going to be 60 seconds. And I want you to work at a level 6 or 7, 10 being the hardest you've ever worked, and 1 being sat on the couch chilling. All right, so try and keep it at a 6 or 7 if you can. If you can go harder than that, then feel free to do so. Or if you need to dial it back a little bit, then feel free to do so. All right, so first 2 moves. We've got ab crunch to leg straightener. So we're going to stay on one side per time, okay? So we're going to work each side for 60 seconds. So you pick either side you want to start with. For this demo, I'm going to go left leg to right elbow. So we're going to be here, crunch there, down, straight. Watch again. Crunch, leg straight. crunch, leg straight, crunch, leg straight. Really think of those abs contracting, and bring those abs together, squeeze, release, leg out, squeeze, release. Okay, so like I said, we're going to work each side for 60 seconds. So watch one more time. Hands here behind the head or at the front of the head here. We're going to crunch and then we're going to stretch there. Crunch and stretch. Okay, that's your first 2 moves for the evening, people. Let's get ready. Let's get busy now. Come on. Let's change these tunes. Okay, we're going to go on and drop. Get yourself ready now. You choose which side you're going to start with. Remember, stay on that side for 60 seconds. Get ready. Get ready now, people. Let's go. Let's go. Keep working that now. Halfway. Keep on that side. The same side, my people. Keep working. Ten seconds. 2, 1. Okay, people, rest for 20 seconds. So remember, exercise 2, we're just going the opposite way. Okay, get yourself ready now. Start thinking about it. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Same move, change sides. Let's go, people. Work it now. Come on. 30 seconds gone, my people. Keep working it for me now. Let's go. Twenty seconds. Last 10 seconds, people. 3, 2, 1. Okay, you now have 30 seconds rest. Let those abs reset. Take a quick water break if you need it. Okay, listening while you're resting, still 15 seconds to rest. So next 2 moves, we've got knees to waist. We're going to alternate each time. So we're going to be here again, hands behind the head, the hands in front of the head. We're going to bring that knee to the waist. Pause there, nice and strong. Pause. 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 Okay, from there, move number 4. We're going to go in a squat here, nice and wide. Again, hands here or hands there. And we're going to bring that elbow to the knee. And look there. Yeah, other side, there. There, really getting that nice stretch in the obliques. So watch again, nice and bent. There. 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 So remember, first one, knees. Second one, there. There. Let's get ready, people. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. High knees. Let's go, people. Working out. Halfway now. Twenty seconds, my people. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and that time, people. Well done, well done. Take a 60-second break, and then we can get straight back at you with round number 2. Well done. Twenty seconds, people. Okay, people, circuit number 2 coming your way. Let's go. All right, so first 2 moves again. It's going to be the same exercise, but we're going to work one side at a time. So 60 seconds per side. Again, you can choose which side you start with, either left or right. Okay, so we're going to be here, legs around hip width apart. I'm going to start now right here. What we're going to do, explode into a wood chopper. So we're going to be here, explode, 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 really stretching the abs, stretching the chest, being explosive. Watch again. Here, explode. Okay, 60 seconds there, and then we'll change sides for 60 seconds. So here, nice and explosive. Okay, we're going to work both sides for 60 seconds. Let's get ready, people. Come on now. Choose your side. Choose your side. Let's get ready now, people. So start, choose your side. Which one you will go with first? Get ready. Go. Yeah, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Halfway. Keep working hard on that side, my people. Ten seconds. 2, 1. Okay, rest for 20 seconds. Let those abs reset. So remember which side you started with. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Let's work, people. Halfway, 30 seconds. Fifteen seconds to go, people. 3, 2, 1. Rest there, people. Take 30 seconds to rest. Okay, while you rest, listening. The last 2 moves, we've got kettlebell swings. We're going to be here, knees slightly bent, hands together. And we're going to swing up nice and high, really stretch those abs. Come down, push up again, nice and high. Watch from this side. Here. And really stretching those abs. Okay, from there, we're going to crouch down. We're going to side, nice and aggressive. There, there, there. Really turning that obliques. Okay, go from kettlebell swings to side punches to finish the round. Let's go, people. Get ready. Get ready. Let's take this back. Go in 3, 2, 1. Swing. Let's go. Let's go. That's halfway. Keep it going. Come on and rest for 20 seconds, people. Remember, we've got side punches to finish off the ground. Get ready. We're going in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Let's go, people. 15 seconds to go. Last 10. 3, 2, 1, and time, people. Well done, well done. Give yourself 20 seconds to take on some water, and then we will stretch off. Well done, people. Okay, people, join me back in your spaces. Let's stretch off. So we're going to start with the neck. We're going to go side to side, like so. Let's go ear to shoulder. Okay, hands together. We're going to go around the world. Stretch those abs off. Change direction. Okay, we'll go front to back, stretch those abs. Go around. Change direction. Take it all off. And that's time, people. Big pat on the back, big session, big session. Shekinah or praise, are you still in the house? Talk to me.
Yes, I'm here. Should I
Praise.
close the session?
Yes.
All right. All right, thanks everyone for attending today's session. And see you next week, same time. But next week we'll start at 6:30. So see you next week and have a great evening. Bye for now.
Next week, people. Enjoy. Peace.